Give me a shout out in the comments below if you've heard one of these phrases that I'm about to rattle off. And of course, if you're listening to the audio version, I realize that the podcast does not have a comment section, so just make a mental note or head on over to the YouTube channel to leave a message. All right, phrase number 1. He or she is going to go so far in life because they are the first ones into the office and the last one to leave in the evening. That work ethic is going to take them far. All right. Phrase number 2, early bird gets the worm. Last but not least, phrase number 3. If you just work really hard, you'll be able to go so many places in life. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. All right, now, I'd be willing to bet that 99.99999% of you have heard one of those terms because society trains us to believe that hard work is the key to success. But riddle me this. If hard work was the common denominator, then why is it that so many Americans are not living the dream? Why is it that so many Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck? Some of the hardest working people that I have ever met are people who are making minimum wage. So apparently, hard work is not the key. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's podcast. I am going to discuss the key variable that differentiates the most successful people in the world from everyone else. And guess what? It doesn't have anything to do with working hard. So stay tuned to find out more.
This is Fit Fashow. This is Fit Fashow. We're going to give you all the information you need to live a mentally fit, spiritually fit, and physically fit life. Let's do it. This is Fit Fashow. And here's your host, Amber.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's your girl Amber, and of course, I am the host of Fit Fashow if this is the first time that you are joining us. Now, before we get into the discussion, a quick tip for you. This podcast is available on multiple platforms. So if you prefer to see the visually enhanced version, go over to YouTube and like and subscribe to my content there. Of course, hit that little bell icon so you never miss another update. But if you prefer the audio version of this conversation, go over to my website at fitfashow.com and subscribe to the episodes there. All right, let's get into it. I absolutely love talking about this key variable. I promised you an answer, so let's get into it. One of the probably greatest inventors of all time was Albert Einstein. And he said, logic will take you from point A to point B, but imagination will take you anywhere. And the reason why that quote is so profound and important is that it stresses that all that logical hard work that we do can only take you so far. If you want to jump into the upper echelons of successful, highly successful people, you have to employ your visioning faculties. You see, Albert Einstein was not known for being an amazing student. That's not what he's known for. In fact, he had a couple of down years before he had his breakthrough miracle year. That was the year that all of his theories came out and a whole bunch of inventions came out back to back to back to back. But what preceded that were a number of what he called thought experiments, which is just a fancy way of saying he was a big practicer of visualization exercises. Before he invented anything, he would take everything he was attempting to do through a series of visualization exercises. He would go into thought and he would just visualize every single variable that he could think of. It was almost like a constant simulation running in his mind. So some of us, when we're building things, we go to other people and we say, hey, can you tell me, your opinion on this or your opinion on that? Instead, Einstein would go into his thoughts and he would imagine, how does this work? How will it end? And he would run it just like an ordinary experiment that he would do in his lab. But he isn't the only one. We see the same behavior across multiple people that you've probably heard of. Ever heard of Nikola Tesla? And I'm not talking about the car. I'm talking about the inventor. He, as well, also did the same type of visual experiments. But it doesn't stop there, because I know some of you are watching, you go, okay, Amber, you want me to be like Albert Einstein, the greatest inventor of all time. Can you please give me an example that's a little closer to home? No problem. Look no further than to Michael Phelps. He is on the record as saying many times that before he ever would swim a race, he would see himself actually doing the race from the very start to the very end. He would he would mentally go through every single element to make sure that he was executing it appropriately. And we see this used quite often in the athletic world. But if you're still sitting there and you're going, okay, Amber, it's Michael Phelps. I need you to take it a little closer home. Well, fine. I'm going to give you my example, me, the things that I've been through. When I was like 22 years old, I got out of grad school and I started my very first big girl job. I briefly talked about this in that first episode, but I'm going to dive a little deeper here. No one in my family had a college degree outside of my grandmother, and my sister had just gotten hers. So I didn't have, a lot of examples of people working in this type of world. But I knew that I had a specific amount of money that I wanted to make. All right. And I put that in my mind and I said, by the time I'm 30 years old, I will be making X amount of dollars. I didn't specify what career or how I was going to get there or any of those other things. I just knew I'm going to make this amount of dollars, because for me, it was a big, bold goal because nobody in my family was making that kind of money. And so I just put that thought right there into the universe. I didn't even realize I was starting to practice visualization, because I think some of us have this thought or this idea that visualization is about sitting in the lotus position in deep, 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 deep thought. And while meditation is a form of visualization, it's not the only way to visualize. You can be wide awake in holding a vision. But anyways, back to the story. I sat here and I said, by the time I'm 30, I'm going to hit this goal, period. And over the course of about 4 or 5 years, I got promotion after promotion. And it was pretty quick and fast that I got promotion after promotion after promotion, about 3 or 4. Then when I got to about 29, I'm still very, very far away from this financial target that I had set for myself. And me being unaware of how visualization works and how holding a thought works, I started to kind of give up on my plan. I started thinking like, man, I don't think I'm going to get there. I had this goal and I'm going to miss my target because I'm 29. All right. And probably, so if I'm 29, I might have been 28 at the time. So I'm 28. All right. I'm going to miss the target. And then in November of that year, the day after Thanksgiving of all days, I'm not even going to get into the insensitivity of this call. But anyways, the day after Thanksgiving, I'm with my family and I get a call from my boss. Mind you, it's an off day. I think it was a Saturday as well. He calls me to let me know that my job is moving to another state and that if I still want it, I got to move. Period. You got to move if you want to keep your job. We're not, laying you off or anything like that. But if you want your job, you got to go there. And we're not going to pay to relocate you. And the territory is bigger than the one you have. So I was getting a bigger territory, moving me out of state, not paying to move me. So I'm sitting here in that moment thinking, not only am I going to miss my financial target, but I actually might lose my job because I really don't want to move to the state they want me to live in. So at that time, I quickly just start looking for other jobs. I don't quit the job, but I quickly just start looking to see what else is out there, because who knows, maybe I might get a bite on something else will kind of come down. And something did. I didn't love the company, didn't really want to work at this new place, but it allowed me to stay in my current location. And it was like a $2,000-$3,000 raise, still far, far away from the financial target that I set for myself. But at least I'm able to eat. It is what it is. I took the job. So by the time I took this job, I'm about to turn 29 at this point. Again, we're taking one step closer to that goal that I set for myself at 30 years old. taking one step closer. I'm not even close to the financial target that I've set for myself, but I'm still holding the vision. I'm like, just maybe this might come through for me. I'm going to hit this financial target. And then something really crazy started happening. I call it crazy, but it's not really crazy now that I look back on it, because I understand how holding a vision works, how visualization works. As I'm going into the company, everybody else is leaving. And it kind of made me kind of weird that all of the people in my department either left, quit, or just weren't there. So I walk into this department and no one is there but me. I'm having to do everything by myself. And after a few months, my then boss comes to me and he says, look, we're pleased with your work. We gave you a whole lot to work with. Do you want the manager's job? Because we can't get anybody else to take it. Hell yeah, I want the job. So I took the job, not really even knowing what the pay range was, what to ask for. I didn't even get a chance to ask for it. He said, this is what we're going to pay you. This is what we're going to pay you. It was within $1,000 of the price point that I set that I wanted to receive by the time I turned 30. I'm like, oh my goodness, y'all, it's happening. I'm getting what I asked for. But it wasn't quite what I asked for, y'all. Because remember, it was $1,000 away. But I thought close enough. We just jumped $30,000. I was within $1,000 of that goal. And so I got into the job. I continued to do the work. And then something else happened. Probably about 3 or 4 months after that conversation, we're getting close to my birthday. I'm about to turn 31 and I'll no longer be in that 30-year range. And I'm notified that I'm getting a bonus. And that bonus took me over the edge. I got the figure that I had in my head. Just like that. And things like this have happened to me all throughout my life. This is just one of many instances, which is why I can speak on this conversation. It has had such a huge and profound impact, not only on my finances, on my career, it's even helped me with my weight loss. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I did briefly talk about this in the opening episode when I talked about I had a mantra that said, I am a lean 125-pound machine. And so I went from 160 to 125. Every day when I would get on the treadmill, I said, I am a lean 125 machine. I am a lean 125-pound machine. And when I got to 125, my weight stalled out. I actually stopped losing weight when I hit that 125. But I needed to be like 115 for my bodybuilding competition that I was training for. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I'm stuck. So I changed the vision, I changed the mantra, and guess what? The weight started moving again. So I have had example after example of me winning with visualization. And when I visualize, the work is not nearly as hard as when I don't visualize. Every time I forget visualization or I remove it from the equation, I end up having to work 10 times as hard to achieve the very thing that I'm after. So let's talk about the science of it. Why, for instance, does that happen? Because I know some of you aren't into all the woo-woo stuff. I don't particularly care. I am a very spiritual person, but it is still rooted in science. So let's talk about it. There have been numerous studies that show when people visualize themselves lifting weights, they actually build muscle mass without ever lifting weights. Now, you're not going to become the next, Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything just thinking about it. You do really have to go to the gym and do the work, but you can build a little bit of muscle mass just by thinking about it. And in fact, when I am in the gym, I visualize myself doing it while I'm actually lifting weights so that it makes those neurological connections. When you lift weights, when you work out, your body doesn't just make physical changes, it makes neurological changes to make the activities easier for you. And here's the key point. Your brain does not know the difference between when you're doing a real activity and when you're visualizing it. Which means if you can visualize yourself running a race, lifting weights, the brain is going to go through the entire process to make you more efficient for when you actually do the real thing. which is why it's so amazing for athletes. But vice versa, let's take it to the corporate world. If I have to give a speech in front of the crowd, I have to call on certain parts of my brain to get through that activity. So what if I visualize myself going through the entire activity in my head? All of a sudden, my brain is getting a practice run of this activity that I intend to do. It's getting all the work. It's making the connections so that when I actually go out on that stage and make that speech, I'm ready. And I can more easily get through it. So in this regard, visualization is actually, it's a practice tool. And it's no different from physically practicing. If you want to be a good runner, you actually got to practice. You have to run in advance of the race. Otherwise, you're going to get in the race and you're going to pass out because you're not ready. You haven't built your stamina. And visualization helps you do that. The second thing that visualization helps you do, it helps you become more aware of all the little breadcrumbs and the tips and tricks that you might otherwise miss. Think about it. When you're really tired, there are a lot of little details that you often miss because you're tired. But when you visualize things over and over, it's almost like a tuning fork. You all of a sudden get this laser-like focus and you don't miss those little details. Those little bitty tricks that will help you become successful. So now that you understand how it works, let's talk about a few things that you can do. As I noted before, visualization does not have to be this really in-depth meditative state. And I think that's what a lot of people equate it with. I suck at meditation. I'm terrible at it. If you put me in the lotus position and I gotta get really, really deep with it, I'm going to start thinking about everything under the sun. It's almost like anytime I say the word, it's time to meditate, all of a sudden I start thinking about everything. Cotton candy, what I'm going to eat tonight, every little thing under the sun just comes into my purview. Everything except for what I need to do. So what I have found incredibly helpful are other techniques, one of which is I think it's the Silva method. It might be associated with something else. But the Silva method, the 3-2-1 technique, where you go 3-3-3, bringing yourself to calm, 2-2-2, bringing you deeper, and 1-1-1, bringing you to that alpha state where you can really start to visualize. And then, of course, I love moving meditations. I can really unlock a lot just from walking around. When I'm in a very calm and deep and meditative state, that's how I get to my center where I really, really, really visualize. It doesn't have to be this in-depth meditation that's 20, 30, 40 minutes long. You don't have to do that. You can go deep into your thought for 5 minutes, be highly hyper-focused on it, and then be done. It truly is that simple. So anyways, the biggest difference that you need to take away after this conversation, it is not about the amount of work that you put into stuff. Because I see people who work hard every day. They leave before I get up and they come home after I've gone to sleep. And they're not living the life that they desire. And then I see other people who are living carefree, easy, with minimal work, because they have learned to hone in on the vision that they desire for themselves. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work at all and you should aspire to be lazy. No, not at all. But I'm often saying what I am really trying to say is that we often work so hard that we miss the big picture. We miss out on our families. We miss out on those important moments because sometimes all we need to do is to visualize the end result. If you can see it in your head, you will eventually at some point hold that thing in your hand. But most of us cannot consistently hold a vision in our head, which is why we never end up getting there. or either we do not create visions that are attainable. If I were 21 and I said I hope to be a trillionaire by the time I'm 30, there's a really good chance that nothing would have happened because it was too far out of my realm of belief. So it is important that you pick things that are believable, but far enough that is outside of, your here and now. Anyways, thank you all so much for joining me for another episode of Fit Fashow. I really want to know what you think about it. What are the things that you're hoping to achieve? Put it in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can find us on the website at fitfashow.com, on Facebook and Instagram at Fit Fashow. We'll see you next time. Stay focused.